What if I told you that right now you might be growing in ways you can't even see? You don't feel it. There's no applause, no big milestones. It just feels like nothing is happening. But Lao Tzu once said, do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Most people quit when it's still muddy. But what if that's exactly when you're making the most progress? Let me tell you a quick story. A friend of mine started learning to code last year. Every day after work, he sat at his desk watching tutorials, failing at simple exercises, writing lines of code that broke for no reason. 6 months in, he was ready to give up. He said, I've been doing this for half a year, and I still feel like an idiot. I asked, and do you know more than when you started? He said, yeah, of course, but I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. That's the thing. Growth rarely feels like growth when it's happening. Especially in the beginning, it looks like a bunch of failure. Or worse, silence. Here's the myth most of us believe, that progress should look like forward motion, like results, like wins. We want visible proof, followers going up, bank account growing, muscles getting bigger. We think if we don't see change, it means nothing is changing. But Lao Tzu tells a different story. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Think about that. No rushing, no force, just steady movement, almost invisible to the eye. That's the paradox of growth. The more real it is, the less dramatic it looks. Mastery accumulates in silence. But our culture has trained us to expect loud results. We scroll past people showing off their before and after, their highlights, their wins, and we compare it to our own quiet work in progress, so we quit. Not because we're failing, but because we don't recognize what progress actually looks like. Here's the deeper truth. Growth is not a performance, it's a process. And that process, it's slow, it's boring, it's invisible, until one day it's not. Lao Tzu puts it like this: a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's one of his most famous quotes, but we often miss the part that matters. It begins, not finishes, not goes viral, not wins, begins. What does that first step look like? Usually nothing impressive. It's a draft no one reads, a workout no one sees, a decision to show up when no one's watching. And you do that again and again, in silence. Here's what this looked like in my own life. When I started making videos, my first few flopped. I mean single-digit views. The audio was bad. The pacing was off. I hated hearing my own voice. But every time I finished one, I learned something. I didn't feel smarter. I didn't feel successful. But looking back, that quiet grind built everything. That's what Lao Tzu was talking about. To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day. Let that sink in. Most of us try to grow by adding more content, more hustle, more effort. But sometimes real growth is subtraction, letting go of the rush, of the need to be seen, of the idea that every step needs to look like a leap. This is why growth feels so weird, because it often looks like nothing is happening. While everything is happening underneath, you can't see the roots growing, but they're preparing for something strong enough to last. So next time you think, why isn't this working? Ask yourself instead, what if this is exactly how growth works? Let's go deeper. Lao Tzu once wrote, he who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. That quote might seem unrelated to growth at first, but here's what it means. Progress doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things patiently, repeatedly, without chasing more for the sake of more. When you don't feel like you're growing, your first instinct is usually to panic. You want to add more pressure, work longer, push harder. But sometimes the fastest way forward is to stop trying to sprint. Think of a sculptor. They don't build a statue by stacking more material. They carve away what's not essential. It's the same with mastery. Most of the time, it's not about doing more. It's about doing less more precisely. Let me give you a real example. A friend of mine was trying to grow his online business. For months, he posted every day, ran ads, joined webinars. Nothing took off. He was burning out. Then he stopped. He looked at the data. He realized one type of post, long, honest breakdowns, was quietly getting the most real attention. So he dropped everything else and focused on just that. 6 months later, he had doubled his audience and quit his job. So here's the question: what are you doing that looks like progress but is really just noise? And what's working quietly in the background that you've been ignoring? Lao Tzu called this the art of knowing when enough is enough. When to stop forcing and start listening by letting it go. It all gets done. The progress you're looking for might not come from the next thing you add, but from what you finally decide to let go. Let's talk about the final insight, the one that trips most people up. Lao Tzu said the soft overcomes the hard, the slow overcomes the fast. Think about that. In nature, it's not the loud or aggressive forces that last. It's the quiet, persistent ones. Water doesn't fight rock, it flows around it. Over time, it reshapes it, but we've been trained to think power means intensity, action speed, so when growth feels slow or small, we assume we're doing something wrong. But Lao Tzu says the opposite. Softness, slowness, patience, these are the real forces of transformation. Now I know what you might be thinking. Okay, sure, softness sounds nice, but what if I'm trying to actually make big things happen? Doesn't that require pressure? Fair, but let me flip that. How many people do you know who push hard, burn out, and disappear? And how many people just keep showing up quietly doing the work until one day they're 10 steps ahead? Let me give you a real example. I once interviewed a creator who went from zero to a full-time income in 2 years. Not overnight, no hacks, just one video a week. Every week for 104 weeks. He said the key was never trying to go viral, just trying to get better, 1% better every time. The slow overcomes the fast. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't sexy, but it worked. So maybe that's the real question. Do you want fast progress or lasting progress? Because lasting progress usually looks boring at first. It's the invisible kind, the kind that grows underground, the kind that doesn't get applause until one day it does, when nothing is done. Nothing is left undone. That's Lao Tzu's way of saying stop pushing so hard. Align with the process. Let time do its work. And if you're doing the right things, small, consistent, honest work, then trust it. You're growing even when you can't see it, even when no one else can. Real growth is quiet. And if it's quiet, that's how you know it's real. Let's be real for a second. The hardest part of this journey isn't the effort. It's the doubt. It's showing up for months or years without feedback, without recognition, without knowing if it's even working. I've seen people quit things they were getting good at just because they couldn't see the progress yet. Writers who stopped publishing, musicians who never shared their work, friends who gave up on therapy because they still felt broken after 6 sessions. The truth is, we don't just want growth, we want proof. But Lao Tzu warned us, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you are heading. Sometimes the real cost of ignoring this idea is ending up far from the life you wanted just because you didn't trust the quiet path. That's the danger. You're closer than you think. But if you stop now, you never find out. So let's bring this down to something simple. Here are 3 truths Lao Tzu would want you to remember about growth. Progress is often invisible. Just because you can't see, it doesn't mean it's not happening. Roots grow underground first. Slow doesn't mean stuck. The soft overcomes the hard. The slow overcomes the fast. Tiny steps done consistently beat massive effort that burns out. Let go of the need to force it. By letting it go, it all gets done. Stop pushing. Start aligning. Focus on the next honest step, not the outcome. So here's one thing you can do today. Pick one practice, one routine, one path, and recommit, not loudly, not publicly, just quietly for yourself. 1 page, 1 rep, 1 hour. Do it again tomorrow. Let the work stack. Let the roots deepen. And if you ever feel like quitting, come back to this question. What if this quiet season is where everything is actually beginning? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That step still counts, even if no one sees it, even if it doesn't feel big, even if it's small today. If this helped you see your progress differently, even just a little, leave a comment. What's one area in your life that's growing quietly? And if you're in that muddy, uncertain phase right now, know this: you're not alone and you're not off track. If this video resonated with you, then like, comment, and subscribe. Until then, trust the silence. Keep going. Your path is still unfolding.